Well, I think After Dark has started.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's been a fun week. I mean, it's not a terrible week, but I can't seem to get a good meal wherever I go in the last week and a half, so that had me upset for a little bit. And then I got a new dentist, as in my old dentist is retiring, and I didn't like that. So, like, too much weird stuff in my life this week.
Where were you going to get meals and they weren't good?
Well, I mean, I went to the Glider Diner one time, and I went there and I was like, oh, I want this in my mind. And then I looked up at the special and I got the special, and then the special was garbage. And I was like, oh, I really hate this. And then another time I went with Josh to a chain restaurant, which was Red Robin, due to the fact that he was doing something nearby. And he's like, okay, let's go out to eat, but I can't go until after a certain time. And it was like after 8:00. He goes, the kids and the family are eating on their own. He's like, and I'll be coming back via Route 6. So do you want to eat up there? We can grab something. And I said, yes. And I said, well, how about just Red Robin? I'm in the mood for a burger. We'll go. And he's like, yeah, we could do that. And we went, and it was like the shittiest burger. Like, I always get the bonsai burger, and it has like pineapple on it, whatever. But they usually like grill the pineapple. It was cold, like out of the refrigerator. And I was like, gave us shitty fries. Whatever happened with Josh's hamburger was bad. Then I had to go to the accountant for my father. And that's up in Carbondale. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go and while I'm there, I'll try this new Chinese food place. Now that's on me, because trying new places are always tough. But tried. Go ahead.
You said new Chinese place up by you?
No, because I was going to Carbondale for my father's accountant.
Okay.
There's a Chinese place nearby. I've never tried it. I was like, oh, well, while I'm here, I'm hungry. I'm going to try that. So I had not knowing whether it would be good or not.
Because there's a new Chinese restaurant buffet, like Peruvian restaurant.
Okay.
That opened up in Scranton. Why do I know this? Because there's billboards for it down my way.
Well, the Peruvians get around, Joe, so.
I guess. So I see this billboard, and I'm like, oh, I wonder where this place is. And then, like, it's one of those things, like, you take in the billboard and you read at the bottom where the place is, and it says that it's in Scranton. And I'm like, this is like a half hour away at least, right? Like, why is there a billboard all the way down here? Like, I could see if it was, like, along the highway, but it's not along the highway.
Yeah, I get you. But, I mean, if there's not a lot of Peruvian food around, Joe, so I don't know. Was it like a mix? Like a what do they call that when they mix foods?
Yeah. It's like Chinese food, Peruvian food, and it's a buffet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I haven't even heard about it up here.
Yeah, see, that's the thing,
And I live up here. Like, where is it in Scranton? Like, I know that's just for us, but
shit.
No problem. Like, I didn't know if it was in near the comic shop or. No need to.
So it stinks that you had the bad deal at Red Robin.
Yeah.
Hit or miss sometimes,
Yeah.
It says that it's on North Main Street in Scranton.
I kind of know where that is. I mean, that's Main Street running through Scranton. That's like the road that goes, like from Dixon to Scranton to like keep going. So it could be.
Yeah, I'm looking to see what's nearby.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, Oh, okay. That's a weird spot. Okay. You know where Taco Bandito is?
Yes.
It's like the next block going down further.
Are you heading towards Taylor or towards Dixon?
Toward Dixon.
Okay. I wonder if that's at the old, there was an old bank there that's right on the corner.
I don't know.
It looks
like check that out tomorrow when I go up.
Right. If you see the building, because it's like a big stone, like, how an old bank was like a big square block kind of a looking thing. There was a bar in there that recently closed up, and they were having a grand reopening for something. That might actually be the place. That's like a block right before the Manning's Dairy, and you can go down to the bus station. You know what I mean?
That's like exactly where it is.
Yep, that's got to be the place. Then it's almost like across from the Keystone Diner kind of a deal. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
but we went out to eat this week as well, and obviously we had weather talk on At Odds this week, but the weather's been killing me because it was like almost 90 on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday last week.
Yes.
And then Sunday it went to be and then Saturday rainy, and then it's been like super cold, and it got down into the 40s the last 2 days, and I had to turn my goddamn heat back on.
I was wondering, yes, because first of all, the 90 degrees days were the goddamn dirt worst for me. I was sweating. I was like, there's no way I should be like this in the end of April. And then it got cold again. I'm fine with that. And I was wondering, because my steam pipes started clanging and banging because they haven't, they were off for a couple of days. And now it's like, oh, my boiler's starting back up. And I could hear like the steam pipes, like the one right next to me before recording, like hissing. And I'm like, oh, like when they start up, they get loud. And I'm like, do I have to turn the heat off for a little bit so I don't ruin our precious recording, But so
again, sorry you had bad food. So with the weather changing, I've been feeling the bloat foot coming on.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I've been like doing my like precautionary measures for it and everything else like that. But getting back to eating, there's a place down by my way called Arena Bar and Grill.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Right. So I noticed maybe like 2 months ago they were open like less and less. Like they were just because they'd be like, nah, we're closed on like Mondays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, nah, we're closed Mondays and Tuesdays. And then it's like, nah, we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
That's not a good sign.
And then I go by and I see like on their like whatever, like, their board outside that has like the 4 things that you can put the letters up on and like whatever it says,
Right.
It just says open, but it ain't open. They're in a car in the parking lot, right?
Right.
So I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm searching online and whatever it is. And it turns out they put a thing up that said like, hey, due to family emergency, we decided to temporarily close. We appreciate your understanding and so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay. So I reach out to Stan Malibu because he's the gadabout town around here,
Mm-hmm.
He's heard anything. He's like, no. I noticed like he says he's like, oh, I went and tried to get Uber Eats from them a couple times and they were like closed, whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, I'm Mr. Fancy getting Uber Eats in Wilkes-Barre, excuse me, right?
Right. Well, it's a fancy jacket. You don't want to get it stolen.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to get recognized leaving the house,
Yep.
But then over the last like 2 days, on their Facebook page, they've been selling off pieces of the interior design.
Oh, well, family emergency. You got to pay for those.
And I'm like, that's not a good sign. You know,
that's the end of it.
They're selling glasses and fixtures and all sorts of other jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like must be paid through Venmo. So on and so forth. Do not make offers in the comments. And I'm just like, oh man, I really like that place too, and that's a bummer. I hope those folks are okay. But I hate to see a place like that go out of business,
I'm with you. I had to be poured into a car many a times from that place.
Yeah.
Though I will say the local strip club not far from there is now serving breakfast according to their Facebook page. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, till 5 a.m. So I'm thinking about going to get some French toast one of these mornings.
I don't think I've ever been in that place.
You know what? Begrudgingly, back in my younger days, over the years, I may have been dragged kicking and screaming into there a few times. Yeah, and by a few times, I mean maybe 50 or 60.
I'm just
because it's changed names so many times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
my thing is just that it's so close. I don't think I've been in a strip club in a very long time.
I'm hoping it's Leo's Roadhouse was the last time you were in one.
It very well could have been.
I still have, actually, it's literally right here. I have my Leos. It was on the table. My Leos Roadhouse, Route 11, West Nanticoke, 7794145 chip for one mixed drink or bottle.
Yep, I still have mine in my wallet too, just in case.
Yeah, just like a condom. I have one in my wallet.
Oh my God.
No, but that's a memory that will live forever in my heart.
Yeah.
My bacon-filled heart. And I just I was looking through something and I found it. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to put it here on the table. My chip.
Yeah. But I've just been doing my best to combat the bloat foot. I've been feeling it in my knee and my ankle the last week,
Mm-hmm.
So, I've just been drinking a lot more water, trying not to eat super sodium-y stuff and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's just that's the true tell that summer is coming soon. But then the cold weather shift staves things off for a little bit,
Yeah. And then one last thing is my that not has to do with that subject change with the dentist real quick.
Oh yes, the old dentist, and now you have a new dentist.
Is retiring.
What? DJ was lamenting dentist woes the other day on social media as well.
Yes. So I get a letter from my dentist a little while back. He's like, "Oh, I'm retiring and I'm staying in until this date, which would be anybody who has up to 9 months in a certain period for your yearly checkup or your bi-yearly checkup, whatever." He's like, "So I'm going to introduce, I'll be that way to segue into the new doctor." So I'm like, okay, he's going to be gone in a month or two. So I know this appointment's going to be my last with him. And I go in, he's there and we talk and he's like, "Oh, you get my letter?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, I'm going, and we talked a little bit. And he goes, "How long have you been coming here?" We're like, "Were you coming to me?" And when I was in Scranton, because he's in over by the Valley View High School football arena now. I was like, I don't remember if I was coming to you in Scranton. I was super young. I go, how far back to the files that you have, right there? He goes, "Oh, he goes back to 83 here." I'm like, wow, I was 10 years old. So I don't remember if I was in your Scranton office before that, but I might have been and don't remember. And we talk, and I was like, okay. He's like, "So what are you doing?" He's this, and I said, "You going to Vegas?" He goes, "Oh, I'd like to do that." I was like, "Well, put 50 on black for me if you go, and go see a Raiders game, this and that." And we just bullshit. And then he goes, "All right, we're done. I'm going to introduce you to the new doctor, new dentist." And he brings him in. And Joe, if this kid could grow facial hair, I'd be surprised. And I'm like, he's so young. So young, I hate it. And he's trying to do small talk with me. And I'm like, and he's like, "I'll leave you two at it." And he walks out and I'm like, I don't know what to say. He's like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, this. And we're going back and forth. And I'm like, I'm not ready for this. I said, "You could be my doctor. We're going to try out." But I said, this is weird for me. This is my dentist my whole life. And he's like, "No, I get it. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be back when I'll go out and make another appointment." But I told him, I said, "I'm just not feeling the small talk right now, doc."
That's hilarious that you said something to him about it too.
Yeah, because it's just so weird. I don't know how to explain. And the other weird thing is this doctor is somehow related, might be brother to the sketchy Dixon City comic shop owner from back in the day.
Oh, okay.
They had the same last name. And when I mentioned it to him one time, it was years ago. He's like this. He's like, "What do you do?" I like football. I like Doctor Who. Going through the thing. I'm like, "I collect comics." And he goes, "Oh, where do you collect comics?" And I'm like, "Comic World with Dom Liacano." I said, "That's your last name, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, it is." I'm like, "Well, are you?" And he's like, "Well, your teeth." And I'm like, and I think I did hear from somebody else that they were related and they had a falling out. They might have been brothers.
Well, I think they still are brothers. They probably just don't talk anymore.
Right, because I believe the guy who owned the comic shop is right where they left them, if you get my meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was my take on that. So, but it's weird. Now I have to wait months to see how if the small talk works again when I go get my cleaning. So
yeah, I'm not again with April being out of the dental game these days.
Yes.
She was the one who always took care of that. Whatever office she worked at was wherever we would go and get our cleanings and everything. I haven't been since she got the new job, like not this past, not January of this year, but January of last year,
Yep.
And she's like, I got to find someone for us to go to. But she's like, everyone around here sucks.
Well, you can come to my new fresh-faced dentist.
Yeah. Does he have because he's just a little kid, does he have baby tools that he uses?
Yeah, he has Play School, my first dental tools. So.
That's crazy that you've been going to the same guy for as long as you have been. That's,
Yeah. Well, once I don't know if you know this, Joe, I'm brand loyal, so I don't like change, so.
So, last but not least here on After Dark, we had a request come through, actually, from the boys over on Final Wrestling Place. Tim and Marcus were talking about stuff. They did a freewheeling show this past week. I think they talked about wrestling for about 12 minutes, and the rest of the hour was just them shooting the breeze,
That sounds like a podcast I could listen to, even though they spent 11 minutes and 50 seconds too long on a certain topic.
Yeah. Well, may I again, I know that now you're a podcast guy, having listened to the second episode of the Salty Keith show. Did you enjoy this one better?
I did. I do wish that, it's the pauses between him trying to remember stuff that drive me crazy, but otherwise it's good. I like his stories, so. But
yeah, Keith is a good storyteller, and I think the fact that they have a video element for the show, obviously it's on YouTube,
Right.
And I don't feel that there's a ton of post-production on the show.
Right.
If it was just audio only, they could probably tighten up those pauses and make things a little bit leaner,
Right. I think what would help the show was if the interviewer didn't sandbag them beforehand. And I don't mean it in a bad way. Just we're going to do this, and he's going to ask him questions. And Keith doesn't seem like the guy who cared a lot to be super into his career. I believe a lot of it was fun, but a lot of it was a paycheck.
Right.
So he's when you're talking about Legion, he's taking a minute. If you had told him we're going to talk about this, you know what I mean? Come up with some stories for this and be ready for this. I think it might help. You know what I mean? Because other times he's like, yeah, I don't, he'll ask him a question. He's like, I got nothing on that. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. If there was, and obviously you do a video element for the show, that's a little bit more difficult to edit than just an audio element. But if you do something like that and the guy's like, I got nothing, you could just edit that out.
Yep.
And that's a little tougher to do on the video side. Again, to me, I'm sure somebody who's much more capable than me could do both. But either way, okay?
Right. So, freewheeling show.
Freewheeling show. You're not the first person to say they don't like the host of the Salty Keith show. I don't mind him.
I didn't say I don't like him. I just said maybe he should give him a script of what he's talking about. But anyway.
Right. So Tim and Marcus were talking about a situation where people were over at Marcus's house.
Mm-hmm.
And they were standing in front of his TV while he was watching one of the games, and he had action on the game.
Oh, dear God. That's a no-no. Go ahead.
And he wanted these people to move away from the TV, but he didn't want to be rude about it, so he went about it in a very passive-aggressive way.
Right.
And they said, who probably has some good passive-aggressive stories is Todd.
What?
They really said this. And they wanted me to ask you. Now, I'll start, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One of mine that I do all the time is, and I probably mentioned this on the show many moons ago, but I would be remiss not to mention it, okay? And I'll give the example of it. Today, Wednesday is garbage day. We got to make sure all the garbage is out, right?
Mm-hmm.
My wife's downstairs getting the cat litter boxes. Again, I do that under protest. So she tells me to collect all the other garbages upstairs, put them into one bag, and then she'll put the litter box stuff into that. She asks me to do it. I say, okay, I'm going to do it. And I go and I do it, right?
Right.
She comes upstairs, and I'm doing the dishes or whatever. And she goes, did you get the other garbages? As she's opening the garbage and sees, all the other garbages in there, she asks me, did I get the other garbages? So I just stare at her. I don't answer. Because I did. She told me to do it. I did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then she asks again. And she goes, I just need to double check to see if you got the garbages. And I'm like, you asked me to get them, right? Yeah. And I said, yeah, I'm going to get them. Yeah. So I got them. If you ask me to do something and I do it, and then you ask me again while you're looking at like what I did and say, did you do this thing that I'm looking right at that I asked you to do? And I see that the job is completed, but I'm still asking you if you did it. I won't answer you.
Okay.
Like, oh, did you send that thing? And you're like reading the email. And I'm like, I'm not going to answer you. You're asking me a question that you know the answer to because you're looking at the thing I sent you.
Yep.
So I'll just be like, uh-huh. So do you have any good passive-aggressive tells there?
I don't know because I don't believe I'm in any way passive-aggressive at all. No. I don't know because I know I am and I know I do it, but I'm so unaware of it. It's ridiculous. Like, it's probably just a defensive mechanism now, and it's almost muscle memory to do the things that I do.
Right.
So I don't know. I have nothing, Joe. No, edit that out. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know. I just think I'm an asshole about anything when something pisses me off. So,
right.
I don't know. I feel like Salty Keith right now.
All right. Well, again, I will, I'm sure we'll hear about this,
What was, there's got to be one that I've done to you. You know what I mean? Anything off the top of your head?
Not that I could think of.
Okay. I just feels weird that my, Marcus and Tim are, putting me on blast. I don't know.
I know, sometimes it's a bit and sometimes it's not that it's not passive aggressive things, but it's bits sometimes that you do. Like last week's episode of the main show.
Yep.
Was, what the hell was it? Like Stevie O, the story of O or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you said it initially, I didn't know what the hell you were talking about, but it took me like 6 seconds to be like, oh, I know what he's making a reference to.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you do those things where you'll purposely get something wrong.
Yep.
And then there's other times you'll do it where you'll get it wrong because that's just the synapses aren't firing in the moment, right?
Right.
And I get that. I do that all the time too. Like, it's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
That one definitely wasn't a bit. That's just the way that appeared in your head, and I could tell.
Yep.
And there's other times where it's a bit and it lands. And there's other times when it's a bit and it doesn't land.
Yep.
And then you'll keep trying.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to get that. I'm like, maybe Joe didn't hear me.
Right. So when it's not on purpose, it's great. When it's on purpose and it lands, I'll sell it, and like I'll make a thing out of it, and it doesn't land, and I don't sell it, and you're like, I'm just gonna keep hammering it till it gets over. Yeah. And I'm like, it failed the first time. You're gonna try 100 more times, and this one doesn't work. And the one that I always
remember.
The one that I always remember is when we talk about Ed from Pod Van Dam, and you just say Fred from Pod Van Dam.
Young Fred from Pod Van Dam.
Right. And I'm like, oh, that's so lazy. Like, Todd, you're so much better than that.
Sometimes the layups are I like them. I'm just Young Fred. It's and I was gonna use that again because you guys have been all over Young Fred's dick this week. So
it's been an Ed week. Yes.
Right, like star of the soon-to-be named network, and I think right off the bat, he has trouble with, getting stuff done, technologically. I can't understand that. That upsets me. I should be the star, Joe. Push me, not young Ed. No, I get it. I don't know what's going on with that, but I can't see me listening to it. All I know is he's got a glitter bucket or something. All the tweets are rolling in, I'll tell you.
You could piece it together from the tweets, and that's just as good as listening to a podcast. I like that the first episode of Hayabusa, Ed's new podcast, is so part of like the very little niche of your Twitter that it's like, oh, I never saw that movie, but I've never seen Dirty Dancing, but I know enough of it from pop culture references. I never listened to the first episode of Hayabusa, but I know enough about it from pop culture references on my Twitter account, you know?
You know what I've never seen, Joe? Rocky.
Oh, really? How about Rocky 3?
Well, that one I know a little bit more about. I know that, too.
Like, so even though you've never seen Rocky 3, would you know contextual clues from Rocky 3?
Yes, I would. If
I said, like, Mr. T, Clubber Lang, Thunder Lips, the robot that Paulie gets for his birthday.
I love the robot. No, that's 4.
No, he gets the robot. Oh, that's right. He gets the robot in 4. That's right.
No.
Isn't 3 the one that begins where there's the Rocky pinball machine and he throws the liquor bottle at it?
That I don't remember.
I think that's 3.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, even if you never saw 3, enough of Rocky 3 is in pop culture that you would maybe pick up a reference to it, right?
Yep. Okay. Maybe that worked its way into my Twitter feed too, Joe. Somebody not knowing what Rocky was. So
yeah. All right. I think that's enough. We're just spinning our wheels at this point. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to episode 440 of Longbox Heroes After Dark. Don't worry. Whatever problem with Skype, I fixed it without knowing how I did it.
That's right. Joe's a 2-timer on this one, apparently.
All right. Patreon.com/LongboxHeroes. The eBay affiliate thing. I don't even look at it anymore. It makes so little money. But we love you guys for listening and being patrons. We had some new patrons this week. That's always good.
Thank you.
And see you next week.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.